Hello, welcome to Actual Play, The Twilight Throne and the Houses of Rune, created by Ray, who's right here. We are playing these amazing nobles, beyond human, ethereal, godlike creatures, perhaps gods themselves, who are facing the apocalypse, facing annihilation, and we're trying to do it on our own terms, on the less bad version, on the tragically sad version. I don't know. It's all bad, but it's bad in a conniving and conspiratorial way. I'm Sean Nittner. I use he and pronouns. I'm playing Eloise, who uses she and we pronouns when her veil comes off and her all-consuming mouths are revealed. I am super excited to jump back into the scheme. And before I pass the baton, I'll just remind everybody that proceeds from this channel are divided between the Translegal Defense and Education Fund and Black Lives Matter. So if you click the buttons to give us the monies, that's where all those monies go. And it's always a delight to be able to see that coming in and use it for a good purpose. So do that thing if you like. Anyway, I'm really excited to play. Let's go around. Misha, how about yourself?
Hi, Misha B. I use she, they pronouns. I am playing Ada, who is a noble of the House of Glass and Clay.
Glass and
I
Clay,
think it's
yeah.
like, what's the names? She like prefers to work in the shadows and be the power behind the throne, which is going to be really interesting because the throne wants to give her more power, and so maybe she'll take it. We'll see. Who knows? How about you, Connie?
Hey everyone, I am Connie. My pronouns are they, he, and she. Tonight I am playing Kavar, whose pronouns are she, her. She is the lust maker of the House of Sword and Halo. Basically, she's a very sexy evil angel. Big, muscular, emotionally unavailable butch lesbian, as is the Connie Chong brand. She's got these like, you know what? I'll leave it for the game itself. I'm just gonna give y'all a little bit of a taste and not show my entire hand quite yet. But when I'm not here, you can follow me on Twitter at @byConnieChang. That's BYCONNIECHANG. And I'm gonna pass things along over to our lovely facilitator, Ray.
Hello. My name is Ray. My pronouns are he, they. So I am the creator of the Twilight Throne, though I want to stress like so much of the Twilight Throne is thanks to several playtesters and folks who've been helping me out, including this lovely bunch of people doing awful, wonderful things. I still get messages about what the three of you have been up to from other people. So that's been great. I'm really excited to get into it. So it's been a while since we played. So I'm thinking we can like briefly summarize or at least do a previously on the Twilight Throne, right, kind of situation where we like bring up like one awesome moment or one particular moment from what happened in the last session just to help us remember and jog our memories, but also be very cool and dramatic. You know, that's the main goal, right? So I feel like we kind of left on a cliffhanger with Eloise. I'm going to save Eloise for last, right? So I feel like we should start with Kavar because this is happening at the House of Sword and Halo, right? So what like scene or moment do we see from the last episode for you?
Ugh, there's so many. One of them would be during the opening ceremony of the, I think, the party, the soiree, the masquerade of like her sort of like mouthing off to her brother, right? Like before things go off. And we see her sort of like standing in the wings of like this lambent stage with radiant plumes of dust and gold and glitter just all over the place, right? And like her like father, mother, conqueror, spinning ball of like eyes and wings and wheels is like giving a speech, right? But she's in the corner, just sort of like seething and like looking at her half brother, Chalcedonia, who always has this perfect golden mask on, almost like a Fabergé egg, and these like golden wings that splay out from his scapulae. But we like zoom in on Kavar's face, those golden eyes, sort of like brimming with dark intentions, right? Like the triple prongs of the crown / halo on her head, like constantly piercing into the skin of her forehead and causing blood to drip down her face, down I think like a handsome jaw, like in against like the muscular I think like pectoral muscles that she's got going on. And then I think the next thing we see is Can someone jog my memory about how we left things off with Kavar at the end of last session?
Yeah, I remember like you and your brother had like a sort of like, does he know that I know? Does he know that I kidnapped his son? Does he not know? Right. So there was this like double talk situation going on between the two of you. So you know that he knows you're involved somehow. But
yes, and I got Astra to do something for me. I think Astra's like on like a miniature mission or something, but I forget the exact.
Keeping track of your brother.
Yes,
Right.
yes. We also, I think maybe the last thing we see is like Kavar sort of like huddled in a darkened corner by like a marble pillar that's like broken and crumbled, right? Like the top half of it is dust and the bottom half of it is still standing strong. And in the shadow of this marble-esque structure, she's like conferring darkly with Astra, and they nod, and like Astra, her like sort of like, you know, like servant slash guard slash lover, like who really knows, like sort of like peels off into the darkness to keep an eye on Chalcedonia. And
in that hot
Kavar,
uniform
like,
dress for a party.
Totally. It's so hot.
And also, as unavailable as emotionally unavailable as Kavar is, I think we still like see her eyes lingering on Astra as she's leaving. You know, as wanting to be able to have her as a companion of some sorts. But
or just checking out her ass.
Or just, I mean, you could. I mean, why can't it be both?
I want to be with you, but also that ass, right? Listen. We are people of multitudes. But yeah, totally. Perfect. And so don't worry, when we come back, we'll also like just do a brief review of what's expected of you and promises you've made. But like for now, we're just focusing on that one cool moment. So how about for Ida, what do we see of like her cool moment? Like I can't help but see the shadows of Astra and Kavar, the golden eyes flashing, and then we cut to Ida.
I think we see mostly it was all eyes on Ada as she's conversing intimately with Mutakad when Mutakad entered the soiree and devoted so much attention to her, to the ignoring everybody else for a while, and I'm sure that caused a few green faces. But yeah, angels don't get jealous, right?
They just get vengeful.
It's fine. There won't be any problems with this.
Exactly. Yeah. I think like because Mutakad, the last forgiveness, is the one who sits on the throne of annihilation and is just obsessed with giving Ada like all of this power, even if it means making Ada a target, because you're strong enough to handle it, right? So
yeah, sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
She's such like you're such like her plaything. Like it's so clear that she's just like, I'm so fascinated with Ada. I want to see what happens. It's terrifying.
Exactly. But Mutakad also wants to be your plaything, so it's a very like complicated situation. Right?
It's complicated.
But yeah, and then so I think like briefly before we cut to Eloise, just to reestablish what's going on, you are here at the House of Sword and Halo. It is this huge celebration, but it is also a trap for the House of Blood and Bone.
Yeah.
Right. So the House of Blood and Bone, which are the guardians of reincarnation who are unable to reincarnate themselves, so now are the House of the Undead, essentially. The three of you have been tasked to guide this house to annihilation on your own terms, so you may take the power of the house for yourselves. And there are several promises you've made to your houses that you also have to take care of, right? And you have to please the throne. It'll be fine. You can do it. You're off to a great start.
I'm sure we can do all these things. Yeah. So, like everybody, but in particular, I think the House of Blood and Bone had a big procession at the beginning as they all arrived, and they arrived with just countless hounds. These beasts of these hellion beasts who also have these puppy dog eyes. They're all like super like boxers, you know, where you can see their ribs and you can see like they're all very the skin is pulled taut against them, but they're also still good boys. but they're also these hellhounds at the same time, and they have been sent as companions, gifts, puppies to pet, but they are of course the spies of the House of Blood and Bone, and they're just everywhere. There's just tons of them, and they've been unleashed within the walls of the castle Sword and Halo. I think what we see when we see Eloise, we see her sort of outside at one of the altars to one of the fallen gods, the Avatar of Death, and the statue, which is gigantic, like occasionally seems to move or shift. Like you look away and you look back and it's moved, and she is conspiring with Chalcedonia, delivering a missive to him, but also requiring an action of him, which is to draw forth the Avatar of Death herself. And because Ray loves me and is like, yeah, you can totally have a costume change that's like someone else's costume at this moment.
Oh no, it's totally doable.
We see Chalcedonia as like golden wings, all like all darken and turn skeletal as they as for the briefest of moment he becomes an Avatar of Death, or perhaps we foresee his future as such, and draws out the god statue to life. Yeah, I think that's. And meanwhile, Eloise is sitting there, veiled, with the candles of her house perched on her shoulder, and her head burning down slowly.
Perfect. The candle flames never flickering, never faltering, except for perhaps because you did really well in summoning this god of death, this Avatar of Death, right? Yeah. And so it's this like god that was, because like Kavar, like in your domain of the House of Sword and Halo, these huge statues that once were the gods cracked and bearing all of this like faded power, right? These like statues are huge, right? They're colossal. And this one in particular, she's very like moth-like, like a huge crown, this like several showing like jutting teeth, 3 circular glowing eyes in the middle, these huge moth wings spread out. But as this god of death like was forced to come back in some form of life, it reached out towards the child, right? Towards Eloise's child, who failed to hold the spark, and the god recognized that the child, the sparkless, would be the perfect vessel for its intentions, right? So that was the bit of a cliffhanger we left on last. No big deal.
Can my child be my mother child? That would be weird. I feel like I'm the child of the Avatar. Anyway, it's
yeah.
I
feel like this is. I feel like
talk about complicated relationship statuses.
100%. Yeah. So before we get into it, I just want to briefly remind everyone. So I'm looking at the player reference at the first gambit. So this is a good thing to refer to when you just want to remember like what's going on in general for the scheme. So what the throne desires, the Mutakad, is to have Ida show that she is fit to lead the House of Glass and Clay, right? And show the rest of the houses that the House of Sword and Halo is the most dangerous house of all. So this is the main goals, aside from guiding, the House of Blood and Bone to destruction. The throne is not demanding too much of you, not at all. You used to have a problem with the lesser nobles and their loose lips, except we have this really beautiful like aerial show going on in the background. That's still happening while this duel is going on, by the way, because people are like, the show must go on. Nobles call upon gods and fight each other all the time. It's totally cool, right? As they enact the battle that like killed the gods. The presence of death is nearby. And but at least you don't have to worry about other nobles opposing you, because Sarge, I totally forgot about Sarge, our mustachioed like skeleton has been distracting them, so no problem. Okay, so this god of death has been resurrected, is reaching out towards the child, right? And there's a moment when everyone's eyes turn to the child, and you realize like it's so easy for these nobles to forget people, right? And so someone as powerless, as forgettable as the child, right? So everyone's eyes are on this child and what the child is going to do. And the child, who is like dressed all in black, impossibly tall, incredibly pale, and is always carrying this scepter, right?
Mhm.
Which was supposed to hold the spark of power that they were supposed to be given, but um and they're also wearing this armor. I think like instead of the multitude of candles, there's just like
A
these
single.
flames.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was thinking a single one. Maybe it's on the scepter. What do you think?
Yeah,
Like,
I love it. I love that the scepter,
yeah.
and I think it just it flickers very faintly. I feel like the child is. I mean, I think we've said this before, but like the child is like the last of the house. The child shows like our doom, and so because of that, like I think a lot of people in the House of Blood and Bone are really like see the child as a big disgrace and whatnot. But you can't say that. But like it doesn't look good for the house to have this child be unable to continue this spark. It's clear that the family line ends, or the House of Blood and Bone ends with them, because there's no one else is going to get it for sure. Not Chalcedonia's weird love child for sure. Definitely not.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So but yeah, and so I think what happens is that candle, the flame, it starts to like flare, right, in response to this god of death, who reaches out like her huge like clawed fingers and wraps up the child and pulls her close, and the child does not like fight in any way whatsoever, but that flame is suddenly burning so brightly, right? So um I feel like, Eloise, you're probably like just caught up in the moment. Perhaps we'll give the others a chance
I
to
think
like
so.
say
I
something.
think Eloise expected this big battle between Chalcedonia and the Avatar of Death, and she was going to sit in the sidelines. And then when the Avatar, like the god, reached out to her child, I think we see like, well, we can't see because she's veiled, but like her body language is that of like surprise and panic, and I think she wanted to act but was too into an awe to sorcelled by the occult experience, and so now just watches in curiosity and horror, and I think that's a great time to cut away.
Yeah. And like definitely the Chalcedonia like attacks, like goes in with his dueling weapon. So the god is like fending off Chalcedonia with like one hand, but it's like so like the god is like their attention is split, right? Between wanting to do something with the child, but also fighting off Chalcedonia.
Yeah.
Right. So Kavar, like Ada, what do we do about this?
I mean, I could let the fair fight be fair if but I think Kavar would be pissed at me if I didn't let them fight fair. So uh I oh,
Yeah, because right now Chalcedonia has the upper hand, right? Because the god is distracted. Like I think you see the eyes of father and mother like glowing in pride, right? Watching this unfold as Chalcedonia looks horrifically awesome. Very good at this. So awful to perceive.
I think Ada is kind of making her way around towards the obsidian skeleton, just kind of slinking, slipping in and out of shadows like she does, while keeping an eye on the impending battle.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
How's the fight looking?
Yeah, so right now Chalcedonia is like transformed as he is as this avatar of death, right? uh is looking incredibly badass. Like the he has this like huge sword made of bone, and there's like this spell of blood that's shifting around it, right? And it gets bigger with each hit. Like this is very much like Elden Ring, like Dark
Hell
Souls,
yeah.
like each
Yeah.
slow hit, it somehow gets bigger. Like his aura gets like that much bigger, right? He's going into boss mode battle, basically. And so the god of death is like pulling onto the child, and her like it's her carapace, because she's very insect like, right? Her carapace like opens up, and she places the child next to where her heart should be and closes it up, right, in order to try to focus on the fight. But Chalcedony is still very much like gaining the upper hand. It looks like he's going to slay the god at any moment.
Okay. Are we the only people watching this, or is this like in secret, or is there like an audience we don't
There's
want?
quite a big audience. I mean,
Okay.
there are nobles who are like, no, I'm not impressed and I'm not watching, but they're watching with the corner of their eye, right? So, but there's a sizable amount of people who are watching, right? Especially the lower nobles who don't know how to stop the show of surprise on their face, right? They don't know how to act disaffected. So
I think Kavar, because this is according to Kikaku, like they hate that Chalcedonia looks so badass in this moment, but they're also like, this, I could use this to my advantage, right? Like while everyone's watching this fight, I can continue to carry out my goals here. I think
you can. Ooh, this is classic Twilight Throne. Yes, this is exactly.
Yes. Yes.
Nice.
So there's a moment where you see like Kavar like start to step forward, like she wants to like outdo her brother almost, like and then she's gonna turn around and I think go for it's time to enact the scheme, babies. Let's see. We are trying to make I
House do think, like, to be fair, Eloise was gaining access to death itself and empower, weaken, or destroy it.
Yes,
so I think that's
I was doing one of the things. I don't know that it's done yet, but I was definitely I was trying to like you suggested, right? I was trying to work in my personal promises to along with the scheme goals.
Yeah, which is the perfect way to do it. Like find that Venn diagram. But yeah, so one of the other ones you could aim for.
Yeah, because it feels like Eloise has this handled, right? Like given how Chalcedonia is about to literally kill death, it feels like pretty settled. So like anything Kavar might do would just like maybe like honestly like try to like mess that up, and she wouldn't want that. So I think she's gonna like nod. I think she's gonna try to like make eye contact with Eloise even, and like sort of like give like a knowing nod, like okay, like it's time to hit him hard and fast, right? And I think what she's gonna try to do is compromise a powerful noble from the House of Blood and Bone while they're distracted or enraptured by this, perhaps.
I love the idea that all the hounds are just like staring at the fight and like they're like, oh, what's that? And so like it's a good time to act, right? It's a good time to do shady things without them being able to without them knowing.
Definitely. So as I look around like at the audience, who seems like particularly enraptured, Ray? Specifically from the House of Blood and Bone, who is also a powerful noble.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna say, like, I think it has to be like Kai, the commander of the Legion of the Dead.
Yeah.
Right. So we see like she has this like mask on, these like it's mostly metallic, these like veils coming off of her, huge candles around the head and the shoulders. And you really like Kavar, you understand faith and like enraptured, right? Like you understand that she is having this moment of like seeing a god and wanting to worship it, like it is this disgusting natural tendency of all things to want to worship the gods. That's why you destroyed them. But here she is, like just completely caught up in it, right? You can see it like rising in her. And so you know that there's also a moment where she's like, you can feel it, like she doesn't know if she should let the god die. Is this part of it, like a god of death? Maybe that's what's supposed to happen, or is she supposed to intervene? Because you know that Kai is the commander of the Legion of the Dead, so incredibly powerful commander and warrior. Right?
I think she's also the god of death's daughter, if I remember correctly. If I remember correctly, we are. That's how we're bound. That's how we're bound. Is that we are both half sisters, daughters of got just not to complicate
That's
things or anything like
right.
that, but I think it's her mom that's being attacked right now. Just throw.
Oh
throw
my
that out there.
gosh, that is correct. I forgot that huge thing. I'm gonna
Yeah.
write that down now.
I just added it to
Little
her
things.
bio
Thank you.
because I was like, I'm pretty sure we established that last session. We had
This is
established
why
it
I
before.
try to update the NPC stuff. Oh my gosh. Sometimes in the
Yeah.
games it gets so long for NPC.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, okay.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, no problem. Just to make things extra complicated.
Extra spicy.
I mean, complicated is where Kavar blooms. She's gonna sidle up to Kiai, whose like skeletal face is like transfixed upon this scene of vicious rapture. And she is going to sort of lean in and just sort of like, lean into where she thinks maybe like an ear hole is, right? Like amongst the candles that are burning, like on her pauldrons and on her crest. Kiai, commander of the Legion of the Dead, always so stalwart and focused, dignified and attentive. And yet your mother struggles, but there's something beautiful, something hypnotic about the death of death, isn't there? There's something you can't tear your eyes away from. You like this, don't you? It's nice to like this. And like she's trying to compromise Kiai by making Kiai revel in the death of her mother.
Oh, that is so good. Gosh, yeah, I think like when you do that, you can see like from within the depths of the skeletal face, the skull, the mask as it merges together. There's like this burning, like strange purple flame from within the depths of the skull, right? And then there's a moment where the teeth all clatter and shatter together, and there's this long, drawn out death of death. But it's this, no, this isn't. And you can sense it, Kavar. You know when someone wants to give in. But they're holding back, right? Like, you are the master of pleasure. You understand how this goes, right? So she's trying to hold back, but she's transfixed, right? Looking at it, but like interceptedly, like she like her body is like moving towards you, right? Like she's opening herself up to the possibility. So this sounds to me like a role, like an action. It sounds like entice, but what do you think it is? Like,
nah, it can be enticed. It can be enticed. I can
it's not very enticing. I felt enticed, and I was just a GM, so
Ooh. There we go.
Yeah. So I think we're looking at, because you're using all of this to your advantage, we're looking at controlled, actually, controlled standard effect. So
it's a 5.
Nice.
2 5s. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Very good. All right. So you do. What does it look like when you make sure the lust overtakes her, right? Like, as you get what you want. Mm-hmm.
I walk my fingers over the bridge of her spine, like across her shoulders, like from trap to trap. I just sort of like walk, and I like lean in as I say it, and I'm just like, I'm in. It's very sensual, and like weirdly erotic, like talking about this, person, and their mom. So like Kavar's like leaning in, like pulling her close, almost like letting the wax from her shoulders dribble onto her fingers and melt down her wrist, You like it. It's okay. There's nothing shameful about this. Just embrace it. Commander of the Legion of the Dead. I mean, that's the final frontier, isn't it? Death. And once she's gone, what's next for you to conquer? And Kavar's gonna like thread her fingers actually up to Kiai's mouth and invite her to lick the wax off.
Yeah, and I think there's a moment where like, I think like silently she doesn't like respond verbally, but she finally tears her eyes away from the spectacle and she looks into your eyes, right? You see those purple flames, and for a moment you see like the purple flames lick across her face of what she looked like when she had flesh on these bones, right? And you can see like this fierce warrior's expression, like these like piercing amethyst eyes, this dark, beautiful skin, this long flowing hair for a moment, as she like, and this real tongue comes out, right? And like licks the wax off, right? So you can see like the corruption is sort of like awakening the flesh that she once had. Um, I'm just like so overcome. Twilight Throne, typical shenanigans. Looking for ear holes, and now there's flesh growing. But yeah, so you do achieve what you want, but there's just a minor consequence. And the minor consequence is this: you hear, like, as this is happening, you hear like a whisper from one of the other nobles. I've heard that the child of Chacedonia is somewhere at this very gathering. Oh no, it can't be. I've heard different things about that child, right? And then like the murmurs like fade as like the gossip moves on.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull my hand away from her and be like, basically be like, remember this feeling, Kiai. Never, ever, ever let it go. And then she's basically just gonna be like, bye, and like get out of there and like follow the gossip because like
Wait, what?
a fuckboy move.
It is in fact a fuckboy move.
It is pretty much an ultimate fuckboy move there.
Yeah, I'm out.
Right. So because this is a Forge of the Dark game, you can resist this consequence if you want. You can make sure that it doesn't even happen.
Wait, no, I'm totally cool with the consequence happening. My next move, we can cut to someone else, would be to follow the gossip, I think, and see how far it spread. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So like, and then I think like as you just like step away, right, we really see this moment of Kiai, like the flesh like flickers, right, for a moment. It looks like it's going to fade, but instead the corruption on Kiai is complete, right? Like the flesh really starts to completely overtake her. The rotting armor, the carcass that she once wore, like all of it like comes together. It is revitalized, which is like unthinkable for the House of Blood and Bone. Like other people will look upon her and know that she's been compromised somehow, right? So but yeah, so I went ahead and said compromise a powerful noble from the House of Blood and Bone. No big deal, right? And I think as we see you, like Kavar, like disappear into the crowd, you also like make eye contact with Astra, who like heard similar things, and the two of you are converging, trying to find that point, right? But yeah, so Ada, I remember that you said you were on your way to the elder of the House of Blood and Bone, right?
Yep.
The obsidian skeleton.
I'm just trying to get a feel for where their head is at, for lack of a better word. Like what's going on in that, empty rattling skull of theirs. It's not actually empty, but that's
right. And so like we established earlier, the elders of the House of Blood and Bone never die. That's one of the annoying things, and they never stop being an elder either. But it's only the obsidian skeleton who's here right now. And the obsidian skeleton is like huge. Like right now, they're about like 12 feet tall, right? And so some nobles are also that tall, right? A lot of the elders are like, big.
They're compensating for something.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, it's true. And so like, but there's this like huge like set of bones, almost like a collar that's like reaching up towards like where the nose would have been, reaching upwards, a huge amount of candles, right? And then you see them like watching what's unfolding, and like Ada, what you're able to pick up that's very interesting to you is like you can sense when someone is like laying down a pre-prepared ritual, right? Like you're watching them, and there's something that they're hoping to get out of this battle, right? It's hard to read the expression of a skull, but you do get the sense that they were hoping that this would happen, and so they're going to take advantage of it.
What would it take to interrupt this pre-prepared ritual that they're doing?
Oh, for you, my powerful noble, it won't take very much at all. It'll just be risky, if not desperate, but you can do it. You've got the power. You have the throne behind you, Mutakad's love for you. What can't you do?
Not much.
But yeah, so like in terms of like an action, it could look like any one of the magic-y stuff. So it could be a tune if you just want to pay attention to what's going on and learn about it. It could be a wield if you want to use magic to outright attack, which doesn't feel like your, like Ada's thing. But there's also shape when you want to mold or realign the magic, right? So if you want, you could like take the ritual for yourself and like mold it into the shape that you want, right?
Oh, that's quite tempting. Does this person underestimate me
good.
by any chance?
Oh yes, the elder. Oh my gosh, they are way too full of themselves.
No,
In fact, like I think when we cut back to like when Mutakad was like displaying you to like for everyone to see, notably you noticed the obsidian skeleton was not looking right. Like they had written you off, going like, "Oh, this is just Mutakad's like favorite plaything right now." Right? I don't have to pay attention to this person.
silly mortal. Yeah, then I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna kind of like, I see them laying out this ritual, and I kind of get an idea of what I think is gonna happen, and I just kind of, I don't stop it. I just change it a little. So like, if there were gonna be spikes, there's spokes. Just a hair off, so that it looks like they kind of, but just enough that it's like, oh, that wasn't what I wanted. How did I screw up? And just kind of make them feel like they kind of didn't, maybe I goofed up. Just undermine their confidence a bit. Because I am the master saboteur, and that's what I do.
I love that so much. That's so good. In fact, I could argue, even though it's magic, it could even be conceal, right? Because you're like hiding. You're specifically hiding.
Yeah, I'm definitely not trying to draw attention to myself for what I'm doing.
Yeah, and you're trying to trick them. Yeah, into thinking like it's their mistake. So if you want to use conceal, that's even better. So I'm gonna say like, with that in mind, it's so desperate only because this is the magic of an elder, but you are using, I assume that you're using like, don't underestimate me.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So we're looking at great effect because of it. So not bad. So you have 2 dice to begin with. I could offer you a bargain, or someone could burn an intrigue link, right, to give you a die, if they have it. Like you could pretend that you had, this is when you like flashback and go like, we had prepared for this moment.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely built all these social links with each other, so like it makes sense to use them if you'd like them. I think I have. Who has links? I think we all have links with each other.
Yeah, we all have links with each other.
Let's see. I mean, you're going after my house. And like, especially not just my house, but like the person in my house who I like the least, who conscripted me to this job, who has turned my child against me and into a spy, who constantly tests me and tries me. So yeah, I think Eloise would happily have conspired with you, and I'd say. I think that the contribution that I would give is to say that the obsidian skeleton is used to having the murmurs of all the elders in their ears. They're used to hearing hundreds of voices and filtering out and finding from them the one that suits them the best. I'm sure if you whispered honeyed words in their ears that assure them that they are that they cannot fail, they would think your voice one of the elders instead, and they would listen to you and follow your guidance. I think that's because that's 100% true. Like they get the benefit of all the elders like talking to them all the time. So,
ooh, fascinating.
So yeah, I'm spending my link, and you get a bonus die.
All right.
Perfect. So you're rolling with 3.
2 6s.
That is amazing. Autumn. Try not to swear. I keep trying to remind myself to not swear.
I thought this was the one where we could swear.
You can swear. I don't fucking care.
I'm okay with
Fine.
describing tongue and flesh and all this, but Ray is
You're
like,
like, oh,
I
no.
can't say the F word. Anyway,
Would you like us to say it for you?
no, I actually swear a lot. So like, I'm just embarrassed to do it in front of people. But so okay, I think what happens on a critical success, I want to stress, right, is you were able to like perceive exactly what the ritual was and what they were hoping to do. And so you realize that at the moment when Chalcedonia is going to slay this god of death that was reanimated, what the elder was going to do was completely like underneath, like where no one would notice, take the full power of every god of death, right? Not just this one, but all the rest of the other statues, like using the death of this god of death to like activate the ritual, take all of it, and then take the power onto themselves, right? Into the house of blood and bone, but mostly for themselves. Let's be honest, right? And you could tell like what they were trying to do was to sever the connection with all the other elders of the house in blood and bone. So they would be the only one and collect all the power for themselves.
Can
So
I
it's a
share
very
it so that
bold move.
instead of it going to the obsidian, it goes to the child?
Of course you can, my love.
I mean, let's send it to the power sink, because that seems like a much better plan here.
I mean, the child's right there.
I know.
It's very easy for it to like quotation mark go wrong, right?
Can I ask a favor? Here. If this was always the plan, Eloise would have asked something in this. And Misha, it's totally up to you. But since you got a crit, I feel like this is something you could say. I think that the obsidian skeleton is already tied to the gods of death, and so it would be possible that their energy also, like that, this also weakened or destroyed them. If that's something that you would,
Yeah, because we had discussed that we were trying to get the child to kill the Obsidian King because we can't kill the Obsidian King without getting cursed ourselves. So we were trying to get the child to take the curse somehow accidentally. So yeah, that sounds like totally a thing that should happen.
100%, 100%. All right, so I'm gonna describe how awesome this looks, but Misha, I really want you to think about like which of the three you want to, because I feel like you could easily argue for deny reincarnation to all nobles or spread an aspect of death, however you want to. So I'll let you think about it while I describe how awesome you are. So so as the ritual and spell comes together, we can see like the obsidian skeleton, like through the obsidian there are these cracks of gold. For a moment it looks like it's going to work, right? They pull all the power onto themselves. And Eloise, you can hear the other elders of the house in blood and bone, like start to moan in pain as they're like forcibly like disconnected from the flow of power in the house of blood and bone. And at that exact moment when Chalcedonia like surges forward, the sword is about to like break through the chest, knowing that the child is on the other side. There's this moment, this glowing moment of light just like pouring out, and then the absence of light, just absolute darkness pouring out of it. And then there's this huge, like you can feel it just woof, the sound as everything like comes forth from this impact point between Chalcedonia and this god of death. And then there's this cracking sound as the carapace shatters and the child reaches out and grabs the sword and crushes it. Right. And so we see like the child emerge fully engulfed in this dark flame, all of this power from the ritual coming together. And we see like the obsidian skeleton like starting to falter, edges of their bones cracking. And like there's just this sense of like, what, how could this? And like Ada, you can fully hear like sense these thoughts like through the magic, like, but I was so close. How could I have gotten this wrong? Right? They have absolutely no idea that you were behind this, that someone else manipulated them. They completely believe it was their hubris that led them to this moment. Right. So yeah. So what is it that you choose to have happen for this ritual?
I kind of like the idea of the manipulate the records or flow of karma.
Ooh,
Like,
interesting. Very House of Glass and Clay.
Yeah, it's all the karmic record, all the debts, all the somehow that's all screwed up.
Fascinating. Oh my
So
gosh.
some people may or may not get what they deserve. We'll see.
I wonder if the elders have some sort of like oral account of everyone's fate, and that's why they're always like murmuring and whispering, and like that just gets all jumbled up, and it's like bounding around inside the child right now, like all mixed together. And
It's totally
Oh
like
my
House of
gosh.
Babel going on inside his head now
That's
instead of
crazy
the old
making.
one. Yeah.
100%. 100%. I think like, so when that happens, like you can feel like all the whispers move around the child as the child like fully comes into their power, and they can no longer be called a child. They now deserve a name, right? Because they are in fact like no longer without spark, right?
Yeah.
And there's a moment like, if Kavar was here to see it, but Kavar is like distracted right now. The look of like, because like the mask starts to crack like on Chalcedonia's face, and the eye shows, and there's this moment of like pure shock, because we know it was Chalcedonia who took away the spark from the child in the first place, right? So to see the child like this now in their full power, right? But the child bends down, kisses Chalcedonia on the cheek, and says, "Well met, warrior of the House of Sword and Halo. You have defeated this aspect, this avatar of death, and you have given me the means to come into my own power. The House of Sword and Halo is truly a power to be reckoned with." And there's a way that the child says it to make sure everyone can hear it and understand how truly powerful the House of Sword and Halo is. And without saying it, there is an absence where the child is saying, the House of Blood and Bone owes you a great debt. But they didn't say it. And so we see like Chalcedonia like gather himself for a moment, and we see like mother father like beaming with pride, right? Like, yes, that's my boy, right? That's my scion right there. And Chalcedonia like, I think like there's a part of that costume change that becomes semi-permanent for him, right? Like he wears like this, like he earned it from this battle, from defeating this avatar of death, this god of death. And Chalcedonia says, "It is well met." And I think Chalcedonia is going to like recognize the name of the child. I know names are very difficult. So Sean, do you have an idea for the name, or do you want to come back to this moment when you have a name?
I mean, the name that popped in my head was Azrael, which is, if that, it just means the guy. It means angel of death, right? It's Hebrew
Cool,
angel of death. So I think if
That's
that doesn't
cool.
sound too corny, I don't know.
That's so awesome. Oh, that's so cool. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. What pronouns does Azrael have now? Now that
now that that's a good question. I think I feel like that there is some bit of Chalcedonian uses he him pronouns. Is that
right.
Is that right? I think that Azrael also uses. I think they did not before, but I think now they use he him pronouns, and it's a mirroring of Chalcedonia. Like that, like there is like a part of Chalcedonia that they have taken and shattering that blade, and pronouns are one of the things that they've claimed. Yeah. So yeah,
Ooh,
I think Azrael.
What a complicated relationship. Yeah, I think like when that happens, like Chalcedonia looks up like almost reverently and says, "I see you, Azrael, and the House of Sword and Halo recognizes your power." Right. And for Chalcedonia to speak on behalf of the House of Sword and Halo is a huge deal.
Yeah.
But when he does that, he places a hand on Azrael's face, and Azrael leans down to kiss him right on the mask. And so there's this polite sound of the nobles like Like just like, well done, well done. Most entertaining.
Yeah.
Excellent. Shall we move on to refreshments? It's the kind of vibe right now.
I did not expect Chalcedonian to come out on top of that one, but I
Come out
think
on top.
Eloise.
Sorry. Go on.
I think Eloise is just like beaming with pride, but there's also like, what is my child?
Yeah.
Like, are they my child anymore? I mean, they're still my child, but like now there's something more.
Yeah. And the way he wears the power so easily is disconcerting, right? But yeah, so I think like what we have now is you have all the elements of the ritual in place. So you have some time before the ritual is fully enacted, which means you also have time to chase down your promises, right? So would we like to take a short break here and then just so we have time to like, review the promises and then jump right back in?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I will throw this up and I'll put on some tunes and we'll be back in a few minutes, friends. Thanks for hanging out with us. And we'll see y'all soon.